the Convention of 23rd November 2007 on the International Recovery of Child Support and Other Forms of Family Maintenance. Secondly, Convention on Jurisdiction, Applicable Law, Recognition, Enforcement, and Cooperation in respect of parental responsibility and measures for the protection of children, concluded on the 19th of October 1996. And third, the Convention on Civil Aspects of International Child Abduction, concluded on 25th of October 1980. Madam Speaker, let me thank Honorable Windo for recognizing my work in the children's sector. Indeed, as a matter of fact, most of my professional work has actually been around the issue of the rights of children and the rights of women, but primarily on the rights of children. Madam Speaker, I think ab initio, I just want to indicate that by virtue of Article 2.5 and 2.6 of the Constitution, that says that any treaty that is ratified by Kenya becomes the laws, part of the laws of Kenya, I would want to actually call on the leadership to consider bringing treaties one by one. Madam Speaker, I would like you to, Honorable Speaker, I plead your attention. I know you are consulting with my sister, but I plead your attention because I'm seeking and begging for one thing that you can actually take forward as House leadership. By virtue of Article 2.5 and 2.6, once these conventions pass this floor, they become part of the laws of Kenya. So we can make direct reference to them as laws of Kenya. Yet, we are dealing with them as one law. We are dealing with 3 conventions on different aspects of child protection, but we are bringing all 3 of them at once. If I were to compare them to other laws, it means we are actually dealing, it's almost like an omnibus, but on substantive issues of 3 laws. So I would want to request that in future, committees bring 1 treaty at a time. And the reason is also on the issues that Honorable Windo is raising, because they raise very diverse issues, and if I wanted to raise all those issues in relation to each and every treaty, I may not have the time because of the also scarcity of time. But also because once we pass this, it becomes part of the laws of Kenya. And I also want to indicate that contrary to what my good friend Honorable Windo says, under the Treaty Making and Ratification Act, when the committee is considering, you can actually consider putting a reservation to an article you do not agree with. Like, I'll give you an example. There's a direct article that goes against, of one of the treaties that goes against provisions of the Constitution of Kenya. And because if we pass it, it means it will already be directly in conflict with a constitutional provision, and yet will have given it a stature of a constitutional provision because it is anchored in the Constitution. So it actually creates a problematic issue. Madam Speaker, Kenya is actually ahead in terms of our own domestic laws. We have the Children Act, among several other issues, among several other laws that deal with comprehensively with these issues. And in the last parliament, just before we went home, we passed a very comprehensive law dealing with most of these issues, child protection, issues of custody, civil aspects. I know Kenya has ratified the ones that have the criminal aspect, Madam Speaker. I can see my time is running out, but I just wanted to point out, Madam Speaker, it's my concern.
I have an extra 2 minutes.
Thank you. I really appreciate, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my concern is number 1, in reference to children born out of wedlock. The conventions do not seem to be addressed this. And in fact, one of them is in the negative. If you look at the convention that deals with jurisdiction under Article 4, it says the convention does not apply to the establishment of or contesting of a parent-child relationship. So it actually says that you cannot question parenthood under that article. Yet Article 53 of our Constitution says you can, by questioning who the parent is. So it means we can even do DNA to establish whether a man is actually the father of the child, because the mother is usually kind of obvious. So in that case, Madam Speaker, it means it sort of goes against our own Constitution. And then if you look at Madam Speaker, the other one that is the same convention also deals with the issue of when a child is born. And this one actually recognizes children at the point of when they are born. Yet our constitution recognizes children from conception. So this also goes directly against our own constitution, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, again, because of time, you notice I'm actually just focusing on one convention. And that is why I'm requesting that in future, so that we actually see where there are those tensions that are likely to conflict with our own laws, it is good if we bring one convention at a time. And it is possible. Even if we did this immediately after the present, the second, and the third, it is still possible because we are actually making law. But the challenge that I see us faced with is that we sometimes think that ratification of treaties is like passing a report. No, this is legislation. It's not a motion. It is not a report, just a report. It is a report because it comes from the committee, but we are, after this, we'll have passed a law, and once the executive then goes ahead and ratifies, it becomes binding on Kenya. I think the only saving face for me is that we have also ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child, so even where there are certain tensions, we might fall back to that. But if you have very sharp lawyers, these are some of the things that will find their way into a constitutional court. Otherwise, just to encourage the committees, please in future, if you don't agree with one, make a reservation very boldly in relation to that article. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, I do support, and thank you once again for extending for me the time. I appreciate.
Honorable Millie, I know your many years that we spent in the child rights world. That's why I gave you a little extra time. But I think I will ask that the clerk's desk takes a note of the need to separate them and bring that to the attention of the relevant committee. So I think, Honorable Alice, Chairperson, it should come back to your committee just to ensure that they are then processed out of here separately.